So, I have some bad news. Mortgage rates, in my recent memory, are now touching close to 8%. What does that mean? Well, if you want to buy a house, you might end up paying thousands more a month and hundreds of thousands of dollars more over the life of the loan. Now, the reason is complicated. We've got strong job market, we have inflation, we have Papa Pow when the money printer going bra-ta-ta-ta-ta in 2020. However, it's not all doom and gloom. There is some good news. And the good news is because of the fact that the federal interest rates are up, our savings interest rates are up. And also, in the first time in my recent memory, we have interest rates on savings accounts that are touching over 5%. So, in today's video, we are going to go over the top 5 high-yield savings accounts for 2023 Q4. The one caveat I will put on the video is that all of the interest rates I talk about are valid as of the publishing of the video and probably for a couple weeks after, but of course they are gonna change, so verify before you fully apply. In addition, be sure to stick around to the end because I'm gonna give you a bonus option that could not only lock in well over like 5.5%, but also could save you on state income tax. With that said though, everyone else, pop a squat, tap the thumb icon, and if you'd like to support my channel in any way, you can check out all of the affiliate links down below for my top savings account offers for 2023. Coming in at number 5, we have the Marcus Savings Account from our friends over at Goldman Sachs. This account has an interest rate that's paying 4.4%. Now, the setup is very straightforward. There's no account minimums, there's no setup fee, you just go ahead and open up an account. 2 benefits I think are pretty interesting about this account. The first one is that you can just transfer up to $100,000 same day. Now, obviously that's a huge amount of money, but what I really like is that it's a same day type of transfer. As you know, with anything as it relates to banking, it takes forever to get your money from point A to point B. I feel like I initiate a transfer on Monday and I don't get it until Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So it's really cool that with Marcus, you can get same day transfers. The other benefit that I think is really cool about the Marcus account is that the day that you link an external account and you start transferring money in, you will start earning interest on the transfer, like before it actually hits your account. If you initiate, you will start earning interest. Now that is actually really, really cool. Coming in at number 4, we have a SoFi savings account with an interest rate of 4.5%. To set up, just as straightforward as our friends over at Marcus, just go ahead, pop open the website and you can go right through. There's no minimums, there's no monthly maintenance fees. Now, the one interesting quirk about a SoFi savings account is actually when you open it, you get a checking and a savings account. They're just kind of conjoined together. In addition, if you want the highest interest rate, which is the 4.5%, you must set up direct deposit. If you don't have direct deposit, you're not gonna be able to get the highest interest rates. However, what's really nice about the SoFi account, it's the only one on the list that actually has some sort of bonus. So if you transfer anywhere from $1,000 to just shy of $5,000, you'll get a $50 bonus. And if you direct deposit over $5,000, you're gonna get a $250 sign-up bonus. Benefits of the SoFi account. The first one is you can get paid up to 2 days early. So if you usually get paid on the 1st, you might get access to your money 2 days prior to that. Of course, you have to set up direct deposit with SoFi. The second benefit I think is kind of cool is that they have roundups on debit purchases. So if you use your debit card associated with your SoFi checking account because you need a checking account to get the savings account, and how the roundup feature works is pretty cool. It just rounds up to the nearest whole dollar and that amount of money just gets deposited into account. So as an example, you go and buy coffee, it's $4.65. For whatever reason, you didn't use a credit card, which you should, but let's say you don't. Use your SoFi debit card. Well, $4.65 goes to purchasing the coffee, and the remainder, which is gonna be that 35 cents, actually just gets deposited into your account. Basically, it's like free money. And with SoFi, you can get FDIC insurance up to $2 million. Coming in number 3, we have a Wealthfront savings account with an interest rate of 4.8%. Now, to set up the Wealthfront account, you are gonna need a minimum of $1, which really isn't that much. And of course, there's no monthly maintenance fees. And an interesting thing to note about Wealthfront is that traditionally they are what's known as a robo-advisor. Basically, they use algorithms to help you build an investment portfolio, meaning they didn't traditionally play in like the banking space of having savings accounts and so on and so forth. For me, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool that they've got this 4.8% account, but how does it work? Well, one of the benefits that you get from Wealthfront is you get $8 million of FDIC insurance, which made me think again, like, how the heck am I getting $8 million of insurance if every other bank is only giving $250,000? Well, that's where we go to the terms and conditions and really read about what exactly this savings account is. So it says here, cash account is offered by Wealthfront Brokerage, okay, member of FINRA, yep. Neither Wealthfront Brokerage nor any of its affiliates are a bank, and cash account is not a checking or savings account. Interesting. We convey funds to partner banks who accept and maintain deposits, provide the interest rate, and provide FDIC insurance. So that's kind of what I was saying earlier, right? It's pretty unique that it's actually going to someone else. They're providing the insurance, they're providing the interest rate, and Wealthfront just distributes it to you. Now, I don't actually know how Wealthfront is making money off of this, if it's just going elsewhere and they're actually not able to access it. But regardless, like, that is an interesting quirk. Now, the only other question I might have is, well, what happens when like one of these banks that has your monies goes belly up? Like, what, like, do they pick another bank and then is it then insured? I don't know. It's a little bit complicated, but nevertheless though, if you are way under the 250K mark, I probably wouldn't say you have a whole ton to worry about. But even so, Wealthfront is saying you have $8 million of FDIC insurance. Another benefit of a Wealthfront account is that you have unlimited withdrawals, which again, isn't something that's very common with savings accounts. Typically, you're limited on how many transactions you can have. And it's also nice to see that Wealthfront has some really good integrations with services like Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal, just to name a few. Overall, I have no problems with the Wealthfront cash account, but I think it's really important that you understand exactly where you are putting your money, and that technically the cash accounts is not, like they say, a checking or savings account. It's sort of like this distribution to actual savings accounts at actual various banks. Now we're on to the last two, and of course, be sure to stick around to the bonus where I tell you how you can get well over 5, maybe even 5.5% paying no state income tax. So coming in at number 2, we have a savings account from Laurel Road. This savings account comes in at a whopping 5%. To open it is quite straightforward. There's no minimums, there's no monthly fees. You just go ahead and pop open the account. And as far as benefits, honestly, couldn't really find a whole ton other than the fact that this account is paying 5%. That's insane. Like literally, if I go back 2 years ago, I think high yield savings accounts were paying like 1%, 1.5%. To be almost 4/5x that is crazy. And coming in at number 1, we have a savings account from UFB Direct, a whopping 5.25%. Any given day, I am jumping on that, no questions asked. To set up this account is pretty straightforward. There's no minimums, there's really no fees. However, it is interesting that when you set up a savings account, they'll also pitch you a checking account and offer up to a 0.2% boost. In theory, if you did everything on the boost, you could get an interest rate of 5.45%. Now, my recommendation is I don't really think the boost feature is that worth it because you do have to do a lot. So to get the boost, you have to do 3 things. First, you set up the checking account, and then you have to have a direct deposit of $5,000 monthly. Then you have to keep a minimum balance of at least $10,000. And lastly, you have to have 10 approved debit transactions every statement cycle. If you know anything about me, you know that I really don't like using debit cards ever. They really are not good. The only use that a debit card has is to get cash when you need cash. Otherwise, you really shouldn't be swiping on it. So because of all these 3 steps that are required, I really don't think the 0.2% boost is. However, if you're someone like, hey, you know what? For whatever reason you want to do it, you can get the UFB savings account, couple it with the checking account, do all the boost stuff, and have an interest rate of 5.45% on your savings. What? Is that like, that's crazy. So this is gonna round out my 5 top high yield savings accounts for 2023 Q4. Now, this last feature I'll show you is the one in which you can actually potentially avoid state income tax, and you can get even higher interest rates. In this method of savings though, the only caveat is that you're locking up your money for a period of 3 or 6 or 9 or 12 months or whatever it may be, and that is buying government bonds. Now, what is a government bond? A government bond, or better known as a T-bill or treasury bill, is basically an IOU from the US government. You give the US government some money and they say, great, thanks for loaning us money. We promise to pay you back with interest. And right now, that interest for 3, 6, and 9-month bonds are around like 5.5%, which again is the highest I've literally ever seen it in my lifetime. The annoying part is you have to go and buy the bonds, which isn't as easy as setting up a high yield savings account. In addition, it's not as liquid because you're tying up your money for a period of 3, 6, or 9, or 12, or whatever it is. You can sell out of bonds early, but you're not gonna get the full interest, so I recommend you leaving it in there. So we'll use a quick example of how you could go about buying bonds. I personally use Charles Schwab and I purchased my bonds through there. You have 2 methods. The first method is you can actually go to auction where the government is literally like, I think on pre-scheduled days where they're selling bonds and you can buy them, or you can buy them off the secondary market where someone has bought a bond and they want to get out of it and so they sell it. I personally think it's easier to buy on the secondary market. You could try to buy it at auction. I just think that's a little bit more complicated. So you pull up the chart here in Charles Schwab and you can kind of see 3, 6, 9 months. Here's what the interest rate is. You click into it and then you can from there go and buy. The one thing I want to note though is if you're going to use Charles Schwab, you're buying them in increments of thousands. So don't think if you put in like 100 that you're going to buy $100 of bonds. No, if you put in 100, you're buying $100,000 of bonds. And then with the bonds, the interest rate that you earn is not subject to state income tax. In Massachusetts, I think we're around 6% or so. So that's actually a pretty big savings, especially if you have a lot of money that you plan to save for, let's say, a down payment or a wedding or whatever the case may be, and you know that you don't need the money. Well, I say, why not just avoid some of the state income tax? However, if you're like, well, I want to save the money, but I might need to access it before one of these periods expires, then maybe it might not make a whole ton of sense. But I did want to put that out there because I actually think that's probably the best / most powerful way to save. Though I know it might not be for everyone. Folks, this has been an incredible video. Let me know what are some banks that you think I might have missed. If you have any questions or comments, especially on the bonds, drop them down below as well. And I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.